Greg here of 3D Archery. I'd like to thank Kramer for having me on.
Hey Greg, we'll get to you in a minute, but for now, it's just a really rainy day. And you know what that means. It makes me feel like running through the woods. So I don't know if you guys know Greg from Archery 101 and from 3D Archery. Yeah, he's so cool, he's got 2 YouTube channels. We are talking about instinctive shooting versus gap shooting. Me and Greg have a little disagreement on this. So to get us kicked off, Greg, how about you talk about how you started aiming the way you did?
Hey everybody, Greg here of 3D Archery. I'd like to thank Kramer for having me on. We're going to talk about gap versus instinctive, so I got to give you a little background on it. Now, I'm from the Midwest originally, Illinois to be exact, and I'm from the flatlands. I'm a flatlander, and out there we didn't have whole lot of trees. So what we did as kids on our off time was sky shooting, and there was no aiming in that. The only time we ever aimed was hunting, and we were never taught to aim. It was just shoot and learn. So needless to say, I wasn't the best shot. I was like anybody else. I was just average, right? So years down the road, I went over to gap, and then gap sort of morphed over to split visionish. How did that happen? I can track it down to one event. One day, for whatever reason, I thought I'd enter an indoor archery competition. And what an eye-opener that was. I mean, it just exposed every single possible flaw that I had, showed that I had no consistency, and it proved one big thing to me. That I had no way, zero way to make a correction if my arrow didn't hit where I wanted. And it was from that point on that I made a decision that I was going to learn how to aim. And once I did that, my scores skyrocketed up, right? And I got much more consistent and much more accurate. And it's a tool now for me. I don't use it all the time, but when I need it, I can use it. And that's how I evolved into shooting how I am today.
See, all good archers were born in Illinois. I was born there as well. I first started shooting traditional bows because I wanted more of a challenge. And so what I did is I just learned how to make bows, and I made my own bow and started shooting with that. And that's how I first got started, and I just shot at the target and I just kept shooting until I started hitting close to where I wanted. Actually, all the way up until today, I've never shot a bow, a traditional bow, that I actually haven't made myself. And that is why I think instinctive archery is more accurate for me, because I practice shooting my bow a lot, and that gives me a good rhythm, good form, good consistency, and then I can hit the spot every time shooting instinctively. Now if I shot here and there, I'd want to go to gap for an aiming method, but because I shoot so often, instinctive I think is the best option. And if I'm not shooting instinctive, what if I misjudge a distance? I could hit perfectly right where I'm aiming, but miss the bullseye because I just misread the distance in my mind. So it's a lot more accurate to shoot instinctively, especially when you practice all the time. With instinctive, I don't have to aim. I just shoot.
I hear what you're saying, Kramer. I really do. But I think many people fail to understand what accurate is. You know, being accurate can mean different things to different people. So I can't really say which is more accurate. So let me prove my point. See my target here? This is a 40 centimeter indoor target. This is done from 20 yards. Now I can't tell you how many people I read in here tell me they can hit a pie plate consistently for 20 yards. Pretty impressive. It's not bad. But this is a pie plate, this big right here. If you go to an indoor shoot and you hit something in this area all the time, you're going to get whooped on. Why? Because the consistently accurate shooters can hit this little circle right here. That's 1.25 inches. 5 arrows, time and time and time again, right? So this might be accurate for somebody, but to another type of archer, this is accurate. So like I said, I can't tell you what's more accurate, but I can tell you that aiming will allow you to shoot smaller groups and a point more often than instinctive will. Because if that's not true, then when's the last time you heard of anybody shooting instinctive in an indoor competition 3D round, right? But that's one way to look at accuracy. You know, I do agree that practice is key. You know, when I shoot, I don't just think about how far it is. I know it. You know, how can that happen? Easy. From tons and tons of practice. You know, you must practice aiming and judging distance on a regular basis. You gotta make it part of you. You know, I'm telling you right now that aiming and judging distance, they're perishable skills. If you don't practice them, they go away. And that's why a lot of people get turned off by it, and I understand that, you know. And that's why they also fail at aiming, because they just don't know how to work it. And it's not easy, but once mastered, and you got it and you absorb it, it becomes natural. You know, my biggest downside from what we're talking about instinctive is this. How do you make a correction when you made a shot that's not where you want it? That's it. Yep. You know, I understand it may not apply all the time, but it does apply to a lot of situations. And what are you going to do if you need to make an adjustment? Right? You only need one shot. That's what I hear people saying. I only need one shot. You're right. You only need one shot until you need a second shot. And then what are you going to do? That's it. You know, as I always say, I'd rather have a skill and not use it than need it and not have it.
Oh man, I think you stumped me on this one, Greg. But you know, shooting bows is not all about accuracy. You know, it's more about just having fun. It's about enjoying yourself while you're shooting. And when you're shooting instinctive, it's a lot faster way to shoot, so you can just sling arrows and it's a lot more fun to shoot that way. And on top of that, it's not mechanical. When you aim, you're all like, oh, right there, target panic, all sorts of crazy things. But when you're just, boom, bullseye, you know, like no problem, just shoot instinctively. Like, it's so much more fun, so much easier, way, way more enjoyable of a process. So that's kind of why I do it.
You know, for me, I'm not sure if it's faster, but what I've found is that over time, and with tons of quality practice, and I don't mean just slinging arrows, but quality practice, the gap becomes much more like split vision, and that split vision becomes much more like instinctive. They just naturally flow in and out of each other. The biggest difference that I see is that, in one way about it, is that gap and split vision takes a lot more time to master, and that turns people off. You know, I really enjoy shooting the way I do, using aiming and instead of mixing it up, is because it gives me the flexibility to have a higher probability to make more types of shots. You know, I'm the type of person who likes to know exactly what it is that I need to do to make that quality shot. Like I said earlier, I like to have the ability or skill and not have to use it than need it and not be able to do it.
Okay. I get it, Greg. It'd be better to have jumper cables in my car and never have to use them than to get stranded without some jumper cables, right? But would you say that's for everybody? Should everybody shoot that way?
I believe it depends on what your goals are in archery. If you want to shoot for scores like target archery or field archery or an animal round, 3D archery, then I would highly suggest learning how to aim. Now I got to put a caveat in there, right? The big misconception about gap shooting split vision is that it's easier. That is farther from the truth, all right? It's a perishable skill, like I said earlier. But if you don't have a good, solid, repeatable shot cycle, aiming's not going to help you that much. All right, you're still going to have so many inconsistencies, and it's going to make it worse because you're going to get even more frustrated because you're going to say, "Oh, my arrows were needed to be, but I couldn't hit the target." Well, that's your shot cycle. That's you, buddy. That ain't aiming. All right. So you got to know what your goals are and what you want. So if you just want to be a recreational archer and you're happy hitting targets of only, this big from so far away, that's fine. But if you want to hit that target this big from that distance, I would highly recommend it.
Okay guys, so what did we learn today? Well, we learned to listen to advice from Greg and not from me when it comes to shooting archery. I've been a little stubborn when it's come to shooting gap or split vision since I've always done instinctive, but I think split vision is the best way to shoot for the perfect mix of target practice and hunting if you're a hunter. So I think that's the ultimate way. So it was Greg's video about a month ago on split vision that I watched that was super powerful and it changed the way I thought on shooting. So I'm starting to learn how to shoot split vision and gap, trying to get all the tools I can in my tool belt for archery. I was looking at the stats and 51% of you aren't subscribed. So if you're watching my videos, you might as well subscribe and you could be my very first 40th subscriber. So go create a wonderful day.